Welcome to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Nedling. You are about to discover impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you, so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Be sure you visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now tune in, get ready, and enjoy the journey of emerging as a leader of exception in the 21st century.
Welcome, everyone, to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast. I'm your host, Vicki Nedling, coming to you from Roswell, Georgia. The goal of this podcast is to bring topics and guests that will empower you to grow your business and take it to the next level. Today, I am with Noah Hutton, and let me tell you a little bit about Noah. So he says that he is a storyteller at heart, passionate about capturing and sharing the unique narratives of people and brands through stunning photography and video content. His goal, is to help you stand out in crowded digital space by creating captivating visuals that authentically reflect your brand and message. In addition to his work behind the lens, he loves connecting with fellow entrepreneurs and creators through his podcast, The Rest of Us. Through candid conversations and meaningful insights, he shares stories of those who are making a difference in the world in their respective fields and inspiring others to do the same. I chose for our episode title to be How to Start, Grow. So how to start and grow a competitive business. How to start and grow a competitive business. Who doesn't want to do that, Noah? Everybody.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for having me on the podcast.
Oh, so nice to have you. And, when I read that you did photography, when I was in middle school, high school, I started to get into photography. And then as I had my children and time, at that time, we didn't have cell phones or they were huge.
Yeah.
So photography kind of went to the back door. And now my daughter, my youngest, has all my stuff, and has taken that up. But I just think capturing moments is just a great way. And even whenever I coach people on their PowerPoint slides and things, it's like, lose the words, give me pictures, because
Absolutely.
Pictures tell the story so much better.
Absolutely. Yeah, I 100% agree.
Yeah. So we always start with an easy question for you. Tell everyone where you're calling in from. What part of the country do you live?
Yeah, so I'm from Warsaw, Indiana. It's like northern Indiana, kind of near Fort Wayne, South Bend, Goshen, that kind of area.
South Bend, yes. I think that's near Notre Dame, right?
Yep, that's where Notre Dame is. Yep.
Yes. I had a cousin who went to Notre Dame, so
Okay.
I remembered going to South Bend.
Yep.
So, you youngster that you are, how did you decide to start your business and take this path instead of going into the world of corporate, or did you do corporate for a little bit?
Yeah, so coming into college, my plan was always to go the 9-to-5 route. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but I was going to go the 9-to-5 route in some way. And I always kind of had the dream of starting my own business, but it was kind of like making money with a camera is really hard, no matter whichever way you do it. So it was kind of like a maybe one day thing, or maybe I'll just do it on the side as a hobby type thing. But as I got towards my senior year and that kind of crept up on me, I was like, oh, now's the time where I started applying for jobs, and I started trying to get a job. And all throughout my senior year, I was applying for jobs. And I didn't get I got 2 interviews total, but not really a single anything that was meaningful or something that I thought really could become a career for me, or even just an offer. I didn't even get an offer out of college. And so that was really hard to kind of deal with and handle with throughout the summer. And so I always say that starting my business was kind of out of necessity, but also just something I always wanted to do, and I just kind of did it a little bit earlier than I expected. So July came, and that's when I really kind of made it official. I was like, I'm done applying for jobs. I would apply to some here and there if I found a good one that I was interested in, or if it was in a location I was interested in. But by July and August especially, I was kind of done with applying for jobs. Um, I decided to just go focus on my business. I was living at home. I still am living at home now. And decided that was the route I was going to go. I got a little bit of traction around that time with a couple clients and a couple of real estate agents are in the area. And so I was like, I guess we're going to do this thing. And so I started to do this. And especially by December, December into January, in this year especially, I'm kind of seeing that this is now like the route I'm going to take. I have no interest in going back to the 9 to 5. I'm at the point where I see a lot of traction in my business and I can see it really growing, and finding things that I really enjoy. So I've gotten to the point, especially now, where I'm not even considering applying to jobs anymore. But if you asked me like 5, 6 months ago, I was still in that mindset of like, when I didn't see any money coming in for my business, I was like, do I need to hit the job application boards again? Do I need to start looking for a 9 to 5 because this isn't working out? But now, thankfully, through a lot of support in the community and just people around me, I've gotten to a point where I do see a lot of traction in my business, and I'm really excited to see it grow.
Awesome. It's the role of the entrepreneur. You're always, yes, I got stuff. No, I don't have.
Yep, exactly. Especially in the creative business, that's kind of how it is. You're either really busy or
Yeah,
you have nothing going
yeah,
on.
that's right. So I was wondering, in the photography that you do for some real estate, do
Hmm.
you ever incorporate drone photography?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
So actually, kind of funny story on that. So a drone was actually the first purchase I made for the business, even before I bought a camera. So I had a drone before I bought a camera because I knew it's necessary for any real estate. I
Mm,
always say to agents, well, actually, in my business with my base package for real estate, for like the smallest houses that I shoot, every house gets drone. Actually, at every level, every house gets drone, because I think it's necessary unless I can actually like not fly in the area, like power
mm,
lines, or I'm near an airport or something like that. If I can fly the drone, I'm gonna fly the drone and showcase either the area around the house or the actual house itself, because I think it's so necessary for real estate these days. It also helps a lot with if houses that are on hills, or just
yeah.
like if the driveway has any sort of a slope to it, I will shoot the house with the drone as opposed to my camera. So yeah, the drone has been critical to my business. And it was the first purchase I made uh for my business.
Yeah, you get such a great perspective of the yard and just
Absolutely.
as you said, just like the area where I am, it's got all of this green belt and things, and that's what sold me on the house.
Yeah,
But if I was like uh, in another state trying to figure out where I wanted to live, that would be something that I would be interested in seeing.
absolutely. Yeah, the most recent house I shot was on 22 acres, and so that was
Mm,
kind of like drone was almost, you had to have it for
yeah.
the house to showcase. They had a big pond in the backyard. They had a massive like front.
Hmm.
They had like a front yard, and then they had like a whole like section of front yard that could be in a whole nother like plot for a house, basically.
Wow.
So it was a really, really big house on a lot of land, and so drone was pretty much necessary. We did photography and video for that one,
Hmm.
and drone was critical, especially like just showing the scale of the property, because you really
Yeah.
couldn't. It's like off the road quite a bit, so you really couldn't see it. So
Hmm.
definitely the drone helped a lot with that one.
Awesome. So, what is the most challenging part that you have overcome or felt in this early stages of your business?
Yeah, so um it doesn't may not seem like it with how I'm talking now, but I'm very much an introvert. I do not like going out in front of like big crowds or big groups of people and talking. It's not one of my strong suits for sure. So I always tell the story. It was actually just past December. I got invited to a bunch of real estate Christmas parties. It was brokerages, it was organizations around the area, associations, things like that. And I would walk in the room and I would just kind of stand there and wait for people to talk to me, because I
Mm,
did not like it. I'm not a big party guy. I don't want to like I'm not great at walking up to people and just starting conversation. I've gotten a lot better at that now, but I'm still not my favorite thing to do. So this year, really, I've made it a big priority of mine to go to as many events as I can, go to as many in-person meetings as I can, meet people, just talk with people. That's part of the reason I started the podcast, but also just in general, meeting people, getting comfortable with
Mhm.
talking in front of people, presenting to different groups of agents, and just talking with people like that. It's been such a game changer in my business, the networking aspect and just getting out in front of people.
Mhm.
Because when I started my business, and I don't think I started it in a bad way necessarily, but I was strictly cold calling and cold emailing. I started to go into offices a bit, but that was really just like talking to the front desk person, dropping off cards.
Right,
So it wasn't even
right.
like really like engaging with a lot of agents. Every once in a while I would, but not really. And so I was strictly like keeping myself in the background, talking to people over the phone,
Mhm.
getting hired that way. And I did get some gigs that way, but I've really only seen my business grow a lot when I started to step out of my out of my
Yeah,
comfort zone,
yeah.
network more. I joined some networking groups here in the
Mhm.
area, going to events, joining associations, things like that, and actually going to those events and engaging with members, proactively reaching out to current members and current leadership, and asking them like, how can I make the most of this situation? Because I don't want to be in a position again where I'm like trying to just kind of get by without talking to people because I just don't see any growth. There's no growth opportunity in that
Mhm.
way of doing business.
Well, you're not alone, and that's what I do, what I do.
Yeah,
So we'll
absolutely.
talk.
Yeah.
So how you're a younger person, and there are a lot of people from young and old from the last 3 years that have reevaluated what they wanted to do. What advice would you give someone that's just starting out?
I would say a couple things. One, you have to put in the work. There really is no other way around it. You have to just put in the time, make the jump. Honestly, I think that's one of the biggest things that I got as advice. It was from another type of business coach that I talked to, and it was at a point where I was kind of like, yeah, I have a part-time job here, kind of in the area I'm working in, but not really. And then I have my business, and I finally like took the jump of like, okay, this is my last day at the part-time job, and I'm going full-time on May 5th. Actually, is my last day. So that was my biggest thing, was taking that jump and going full-time. But if you're not in a position financially or personally to take the jump and go full-time, I would say put in the hours, put in the hard work, and also recognize that it's a long-term type of growth opportunity. It's never going to be a quick, like you see all the time, especially like for me on TikTok and all these other platforms, you see a lot of like quick get rich quick kind of things, or
Yeah.
like drop shipping and e-commerce. And there's not to say there isn't money in that, but generally if you really want to do entrepreneurship right and get a lot out of it, it's really important to have that long-term mindset and recognizing that just because you make one mistake now, it's not going to just completely be
Mhm.
catastrophic to your business. I make mistakes every day. I make, reach out to people in the wrong way, or I have emails that don't go a certain way, or things like that. But it's never like the end of the world. I always have to kind of understand that,
Mhm.
I didn't get that one client, but I'll get the next one, or I didn't, these 5 cold calls didn't go that way, but that 6th one got me a real estate agent to work with. So I think that's a couple things: is A, take the jump if you can, go full time, just put all your time into it if you possibly can. And if you can't, work really hard and recognize it's a long-term thing, because if you're in the short term mindset, you're not going to have any solid growth. And that's kind of something, it's really hard to see, especially when you have that, you're starting out and you're not getting a ton of traction. That's something that I struggled with really early on. Was, like I said, like there was points around like September, October, where I applied to like 5 more jobs because I was like, I don't
Mhm.
see any traction in
Yeah.
this. I'm not getting any work here. But it's important, if I had just quit then, I wouldn't have had all the growth I had in 2023. And also in 2022, I was planting all these seeds, talking to people. And a lot of it is like I was working in the end of 2022. And one thing I've learned in business is the end of the year is really where not a ton of deals are made.
Right.
And so what I recognize now, and what I recognized towards the end of the year, was I met all these people in 2022, and now I'm working with them now.
Yeah.
And it was like, we're reevaluating our budget for 2023, so we'll work with you in the new year. And I have a retainer client now that was like, we're done with everything in 2022, we'll work with you in 2023, and now we're working together in 2023. Or real estate agents, a lot of real estate agents kind of shut down in December because there's, especially where I live, there's not a ton of
Right.
houses being sold. And
Activity.
also, yeah, not a lot of activity, and also just not great weather, so nobody really wants to photograph their house during that time unless they really have to. So I had to kind of recognize like December is going to be rough. It's going to be not a ton of work. I had like maybe 2 or 3 shoots during December. But all these seeds I planted, all these agents I met are really it's gonna pay off in 2023, especially when this busy season, which is, April into May is really when that busy season starts. So that's all because I planted these seeds in 2022, and agents I met this year, but especially the ones I met in 2022 have really helped me have some success this year. So recognizing that it's a really long-term game is really important and really hard to do. But if you can do it, it's going to be really fruitful for you.
Yeah, and you made some great points that it is those seeds that you plant and it isn't a one and done most times, especially when you're dealing with corporations and things, even, the buying decisions of the homeowners, they take a while to make up their mind.
Absolutely.
And so you want to keep in their forefront, find ways to be top of mind so they don't forget you. Just because you gave them your card doesn't mean you never send any notes. I have a guy that wants to buy our house, and he every month came by and said, "Are you ready to sell yet? Are you ready to sell yet?"
Yeah.
And I haven't sold yet, but at least I know that I'll probably call David.
Yeah,
so it's
definitely.
Funny. So how do you look at financial success and investment as a business owner?
Yeah, that's something, again, I kind of go back to that long-term mindset of, especially when in the creative business, in the photography and videography, a lot of your purchases are not just, 50, 60 bucks, $100. They're like, my camera is $1,400. A lens could be up to $2,200 or even more. A drone is upwards of $1,000 into $2,000, $3,000. Like, all these are multi-$1,000 purchases a lot of the time, and you're not making those all the time, but when you are, it's a big deal, especially when you're starting out, to drop that kind of money. And so it was really hard for me to pull the trigger on a camera, even though I knew the exact one I wanted and I knew the exact lens I wanted. Just the idea of spending that much money was so hard. But it's paid it back in
I was
3,
just going
4,
to
or
say,
5
you look at
times.
the ROI on that.
If I look at the revenue I made with the camera and with the lens and with the drone, it's paid itself back 3 or 4 times easy. So it's really important, especially when you're in the creative business, I always say, when you're buying like cameras and drones and things, that buy the best thing you possibly can at your price range. If that is $500, then you have $500 to spend, and buy the best thing for $500. If it's $2,000, buy the best thing you can for $2,000. And if you have that mindset, you're going to have a lot better time financially, because if you have $2,000 to spend and you budget that out, but then you go cheap on a camera or cheap on a lens, guess what? Next year you're buying the same thing again because the lens broke, because it's not that good. So it's really important to look at those purchases as investments. Same with like a computer or tripods, things like that are like, they don't seem that important, but if you invest in really good pieces of equipment, they're going to last for 5, 6, 7 years. And like, I know people that have tripods that they bought 10 years ago that they don't, and still not replaced, and they're $300 then, and that's might have been a lot of money then, but it's $300 they didn't have to spend for 10 years. So just in general, I look at it as very long-term investments, and I try to spend the money when I can. So like, an example would be a gimbal, which is like a stabilization device for a camera. Those are pretty pricey, but this is an example where I didn't spend the money when I should have. There was a $1,500 gimbal, which is like really good, really industry standard, and then there's one that's still really good, but it's like $1,000 or $700, I think. And I went with the $700 one because I was a little less patient and I didn't want to save it for the $1,500 one. But now I'm looking to sell the $700 one and buy the $1,500 one because I wasn't happy with that purchase. So that was an example where I didn't wait, and I should have just waited and saved a little bit longer to get the better one, because I knew the better one's going to last me a lot longer and do a lot more for me. But I went cheap, and I went for the one that I could afford at the time, and it's something that wasn't a good fit for me. So whenever I look at investment, it's always a long-term thing. It's really hard to make at the time, but it's going to pay itself back in 10 times, 15 times over if you make those really good investments. And then just in general, financial success is really hard to look at because you're constantly comparing yourself to other people that are maybe your age or around the same age, and you're saying like, well, they're already making 100K, they already have a house, they already have a car, they have a family, they have all these things that you wish you had. But it's really important to keep in perspective where you're at and where you've grown. Like I looked at my financials from last year compared to what I've already made this year, and like it may not seem like a lot, but when you compare just what I've done, it is a lot. And so
Mm.
I try to not compare myself to others and just look at what I'm already making this year as a lot more than what I made last year. And just kind of keep that perspective, because I do find myself looking at other people that are my age or younger even. Because on my podcast, I have people on that are younger, but they're doing a lot better than I am. And so it is really hard to look
Well,
at that, but yeah.
consider me, I'm 65 and you're not. And so I have young people like you, but you have to have that mindset
Hmm.
piece. I think you also need to invest in yourself too.
Yep, absolutely.
Learn from big business. When I started working, the company invested a lot in education and training and coaching. And then budget cuts, that's the first thing that goes. And so
Hmm.
as I became an entrepreneur, I thought, I know from all these years of working that I need to learn from the experts, and
Hmm.
investing in myself will pay back,
Yeah.
in so why just like with your stabilizer thing, if you get something that doesn't work well and you have to redo work,
Yeah, absolutely.
that's not good.
It's yeah. Yeah. And the other thing I would say with just investment in general is time. I've found that time is extremely valuable, and just also like meeting people in person for me has been really valuable. So I
Yeah.
will put time towards that as opposed to, meeting them over Zoom because it's quicker. Like there will be meetings. There was a meeting I took last week where I had to go all the way down to Indianapolis, which is like a 2.5 hour drive. And I could have just told them like, hey, it's kind of short notice, not really convenient for me. Let's do it on Zoom. And it probably would have worked out the same, but I got to meet them in person. I got to talk about them. I got shown around the property, and now I'm like working with them, or at least potential in the future to work with them. And I don't know that necessarily would have worked out the same way. So I have always not only putting time into meeting people in person and going to these events and things like that and putting that time in, but also I'm constantly reaching out to people that I admire and then my work, whether it's a photographer or a
Yeah.
videographer or something
Mhm.
like that. And I'm like, hey, can I shout at you? I'm doing this work in the future. I've never done this work before, like headshots, for example.
Awesome.
Somebody was like, hey, can you do headshots for me? And I don't really do headshots. I do more real estate. I do
Yeah.
events. I do things like that. Headshots are a little bit different.
Yeah.
So I reached out to the photographer that did my headshots. And I
Hmm.
said, like, hey, do you have any headshot sessions coming up? Can I go shadow you and see
Nice.
what your setup is? Because, A, I respect her a lot. And B, I want to be able to deliver the best value to my
Hmm.
client, because that's just, I mean, that's what you should be doing in all business. But so I'm
Yeah.
putting in that time there to shadow the person to learn more about what they're doing so I can deliver the best quality product.
Yeah. That sounds awesome. So who or what has been the most influential step or that you have taken to, and I think it's more for me, who has inspired you to do this entrepreneurship at a young age?
Yeah, so I think in general it started out as something of necessity. It was kind of like, I can't do anything else. I'm not getting hired anywhere, and
Hmm.
I need to do this. But also, when I look at, so there's a couple YouTubers in Colin and Samir that I listen to a lot. They have a podcast about being, YouTubers and being creative
Yeah.
entrepreneurs and things like that. And they talk about how like they've been doing it for 10 years, and 2022 was the first year they really made any meaningful money on like YouTube and with the business that they had. They had done like brand deals in the past and different things like that, but 2022 was the year that they really got like a lot of success. And like looking at that, it's like they've been doing all this stuff for like 10 years or like 7 years or whatever it was, and they're only now getting success, but they're doing amazing work. So for me, seeing that and hearing how they talk about their journey has been really inspiring, because it helps me kind of put myself back in perspective of like I'm only 23, which feels old sometimes, but it's really not. And
It's
so
really not.
as like looking at putting myself in perspective of like, yeah, things are not as great as I would want them to be right now, but looking at the future of like I have time, I can make the mistakes now, I can learn now, and grow my business there. And it may take, 3 or 4 years. When I want it to take 1 or 2, but that's just how it is. Same thing
Mhm.
when I was entering the business. I thought I would be where I am now back in like October.
Yeah.
And so that was a really hard kind of thing to swallow of like, okay, 2022 is kind of rough. 2023 is going to be my year. I'm really like working on the business, growing the business, seeing a lot of growth. And so, looking at their journey especially has been really helpful to me of keeping in perspective of it's a long-term play. You make the mistakes early on, you don't have as successful of a piece of work as you wanted to or something like that, but it's okay because you have a lot of time to work in your skills, get more clients, get more work, grow,
Mhm.
and get have a better, more long-term success business.
Yeah, it is the compound effect. And even entrepreneurs, whenever I worked for a large company, a couple large companies, and one of them was based on franchising. And
Hmm.
and so any entrepreneur, franchisee, franchisor is really expecting 3 to 5 years till they make really any salary for
Yeah.
themselves or whatnot. So as I think that always gives me peace, if you will. It's like, oh,
Hmm.
I'm not going to slack, but I know that I'm not going to allow myself to get depressed if things aren't coming in as I know they will,
Yep.
because I'm laying that foundation. And I think that's what
Yeah.
you and all the young people need to remember too.
Hmm.
It's time for us to go to the rapid fire. So, what photo and video gear do you use daily? We talked about your camera and your drone. What else do you lug around?
Yeah. So I always have my camera, my lens, my drone, stabilizer, things like that. But a piece that I just recently got, I think I got it on Friday or Saturday. It's gonna be a game changer for me as far as my work. I got like a screen that basically mount on my top of my camera. And it because my camera screen on the actual camera is like 3 inches. It's really small. I have
Hmm.
glasses, I have terrible eyesight, so I need this bigger screen, and I think that's gonna really help me. Just be able to see what I'm actually shooting as opposed to looking at the
Yeah.
screen. So that's a piece. It seems so small, but it's going to be huge for what I'm doing, which I'm really excited about. And the other thing that I'll say, I'm just looking behind me at my camera equipment. I would say that the stabilizer honestly is probably one of the biggest pieces that I use because it's such a challenging piece to use. So I'm still learning how to use it effectively. It's a really it's just a really complicated piece to use because you have to balance the camera on it and you
Hmm.
have to be able to mount it correctly, and it's
Hmm.
heavy, so you have to manage that. So just in general, all of that has been really challenging, but it also allows my work to be that much better because it allows me to get smoother video and things like that. So
Right.
those two pieces I would say are game changing for what I do, but also challenging for what I do. And so that just helps me grow and get better as I do my
Hmm.
work.
For sure. All right. So, what are the top tools or strategies? I think would be a good word. Strategies to be strategic as a business owner.
Yeah, I think one thing is just finding places to network. And I think that's the
Hmm.
biggest thing for me. I will always push networking as much as I can. And also like I worked my internship that I'm still working on now that I'm finishing up that I've worked in for the past 2 years was in association management. So
Hmm.
I will always push joining associations that are either in your expertise. So whether you're in, if you're in meeting planning, join MPI or something like that, or if you're a photographer, find a photography related association, or even if you're not, like I'm an event photographer, so I joined MPI as a affiliate member or a supplier member, so I can meet other meeting planners that I can
Yeah.
work with. So I think that's the biggest thing is look at those nonprofit associations that you can join and network at, or find networking events that you can go to in that way, that you can meet more people and get more introductions. Because not only will you meet the people, but you also build a trusting relationship with them, which is so big for referrals, and
Yeah.
things like that. And the other thing I would say is join a BNI group if you have one local. That has been really, really important for what I have done. I remember looking at the investment to join the group, and it was a lot of money at the time, but I think I made like 4 times back the investment already, or 3 times back the
Awesome.
investment already. So I would say join a networking group, join associations, go to events, just get involved locally or statewide, nationally,
Yeah.
whatever you can. because that's really where I've seen the most growth in my business.
Yeah, you should join the local chambers.
Yes,
'Cause-
absolutely. The Chamber of Commerce as well.
Mhm.
If it's a good fit for you, I would definitely join.
Yeah, for sure. And so talk a little bit about your podcast as we end this last question. So what is the main focus of your podcast?
Yeah, so my podcast is called The Rest of Us, and the main focus is talking to other young entrepreneurs about their journey, about how they started their business, and especially where they're growing right now. One of the things that I saw when I listened to podcasts, which I listen to them constantly, I have one in my ear all the time, and I just saw a lot of it's a lot of venture-backed businesses and a lot of big Fortune 1000, Fortune 500 CEOs, journalists. Nothing wrong with that. Like, they're all great. I love listening to all their content, but I just never saw people my age, especially, and people in my position on podcasts, people that are still like cold calling for business or still trying to grow and trying to get their first retainer client or trying to get to a point where they can pay themselves or pay themselves a salary that is financially sustaining for them. I never really saw that representation. So I was, and also just me naturally, it felt right to start a podcast because I also needed a way to create more that wasn't just my work, and meet other entrepreneurs, which is my favorite thing to do, is have a conversation with an entrepreneur. And so this podcast has allowed me to do that and have a lot of great conversations with a lot of different people. So I highly recommend everybody listen, because it's great for entrepreneurship and especially younger entrepreneurs.
For sure. To me, I do in-person networking as well as online networking. And to me, my podcast is the premier way to network.
Yes.
I have 30 minutes of your time. I get to know you. I talk before and after. And it's really a great way to develop not only collaborations, but friendships. I find people that I really click with, and I would have never met them if I hadn't have done this podcast, and from all the way around the world. So it's just a great, great way to do it. Well, I have enjoyed our conversation. It's time for us to warn those that are just listening that I'm going to share my screen. That means you need to run and get your paper and pencil so you can grab the website information that I'm going to read to you. So we have the website for Noah is https:///www.noah, Hutton.com. That's noahhutton.com, noah-hutton.com. He is on Facebook. You can search NTH Productions. If you are pulling down the information that will be on my website as well as YouTube, you can see there's a link for Facebook, but it's got a lot of numbers and things that I'm not going to read. He's on LinkedIn at NTH Productions. He is on Instagram at NTH Productions. And I'm going to let him talk to you about the things that you can find the links on his website.
Yeah, so on my website, my main services are real estate media, so both rentals, real estate, and architecture as well, and then commercial media, so that's basically any video for business, whether that's interviews or social media content, podcasting, things like that. And then my other offering is event photography and event media. So if those are of any need to anybody that's listening, please contact me. You can find me on my website or the social media platforms that we just talked about. And then also, if you're a younger entrepreneur or just an entrepreneur in general that is looking to have a good conversation, I'd love to meet with you and talk to you about your business. I'm going to learn more about it. So you can reach out to me again on any of the social media platforms or on my website as well. I'd love to talk to you and chat.
And on your website, do you have a gallery of some of the photography that you've done?
Yep. My website is basically my portfolio. So my real estate's on there, my commercial media is on there, and my event photography is also on there.
Awesome. So if you want to connect with Noah and be able to either be on his podcast or see and connect with him to have him do some work for you in terms of photography, please go to www.noah-hutton.com. Again, noah-hutton.com. Awesome. So it is time for us to say thank you very much for a great interview. You had wonderful information, and it's always wonderful to have a young entrepreneur. As you started this whole podcast because I wanted to give people that were just starting out a way to connect with folks that will be able to grow their business and learn from the mistakes of others, if you will. As you said, no shortcuts, but still you can kind of smooth the way a little bit. So,
Yep, absolutely.
and as always, I remind everyone that life is a journey and it's up to you to enjoy the ride. This is Vicki Nettling signing off.
Thank you for tuning into the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Nettling, where we share impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Remember to visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast.